Welcome, welcome. Greetings, greetings. This is Natasha Harrison, President and CEO with Community Built Ventures, and so grateful to be having this conversation today on on this glorious day. I'm looking out my window here in Atlanta, but just also grateful to have this conversation with Miss Romaine Harris. But before we get started, as I welcome you in, please, let us know you're here. um Hello. I just want to see all the comments. Hello, Shamika. Hello, Shamika. So grateful you're joining with us today. It's morning here in Atlanta, and it's really early where Miss Romaine where Miss Romaine Harris is right now. So just want to welcome you in the space. um this conversation is, I believe, is coming at the right time for a lot of reasons. We're still in the midst of a pandemic. Um, you know, Black folks are, it's one in 645 have unfortunately transitioned due to the virus. And then on top of that, we've all have been experiencing a series of different types of losses, right? Whether it's been a loved one that has transitioned, your job, relationships, um, where you live. There has been a variety of different um, points of grief, right, for us. And I would say personally, many of you know who've seen my lives before. that I've shared, my own grief journey and healing journey started with the transition of my mother when I was 17. And I would say with the rise in COVID and just seeing the numbers of friends and family members that have transitioned this past year, as well as just seeing friends going through the transition of their loved ones and not being able to hold ceremony, not being able to really do the things and rituals that we typically do, right? When we honor our loved ones, and we just haven't had the opportunity to do it. So it's also been very weird about grief. Like, what do I, how do I celebrate, life, and things like that. I think, for me, my intentions of talking about grief and providing resources, particularly for Black folks, was that it was literally um, almost every week I was seeing someone that I knew that said, "Hey, my uncle has transitioned, my sister, my brother, my best friend," and even being and I think it was just all divine. It was all God that I was tagged in conversations, right, of people sharing. And I was just like, why am I tagged in that? Maybe I just need to see it. So I thought it was just, at CBV, because we are a pro-Black firm, that it just made sense that we just offer space for Black folks in this. So I'm going to bring Miss Romaine Harris, who has been my guide along this journey of figuring out what we should do in offering to the Black community. And so I'll share a little bit about Romaine. She is the bomb. I just want to start there. She's amazing. And I also, before I introduce her, I want to send deep gratitude to her daughter Wula Dawson, who actually we served together in a leadership program for Black women social justice leaders in Georgia, and I told her about this grief journey and wanting to do something around grief. She was like, "Oh, you need to talk to my mom. You need to talk to my mom." And I was like, "Great!" And she connected us. And so Miss Romaine Harris, she is a certified community health worker, speaker, facilitator, and social change activist. She has worked for the last 50 years as a volunteer for a World Peace Buddhist organization, helping to change the lives of practitioners for the better. She has studied and practiced Buddhism under Daisaku Ikeda, grandmother river Cherokee traditions. And she's inspiring, she's empowering, just deep, deep wisdom and compassion and empathy, and leads with integrity. And, she draws from her own life experience over the last 51 years, with the death of her mother when she was 3 and the death of her 19-year-old son by suicide 13 years ago. She has a very, very special insight into traumatic events with ancient and new scientific ways of healing. Please welcome Miss Romaine Harris. So grateful. Yay! You're here. We're doing this. We're launching this. Yay!
Yeah, and I'm so happy and proud to be in this whole situation. I just feel like it's such a gift from the universe, or from the divine, to have this connection on one coast to the other coast of the United States. We're about to change America. Who else is going to do it?
Yes. Coast to coast. I love that. Oh, I can see that. I love it. I love
Yeah,
it. Yep,
yeah.
yep. And so to kick us off, I of course I have a couple of questions, but as we get into it, as we've experienced with each other, spirit will move us where we need to need to go, right? And
Exactly.
also, yeah, and folks, feel free if you have questions, please post them in the comments. And so, just starting off with this, like, what is your relationship with grief? Like, what has that been?
Yeah, that's been as I look back at my life over the last, well, I'm 75, I'll be 76 next month. And when I look back over my life, I realized that so many of my decisions that I made were based on the grief of losing my mother. And in search of that, in
Mm,
search of that love that I lost when she left or transitioned. And I it's so amazing that 13 years ago, when Julius, my son, transitioned by his own hand, I thought I was the cause not only of his demise, but my mother's demise. And that's my 13-year-old inner child taking over my emotions and making everything so horrific. And yet, through that darkness is where I found the light of being positive no matter what's going on the outside. That if I had a strong core, which I have to say, Wula was the one that came in when I was in my darkest hour and started just emptying all of the things that she saw my life do. And I was just like, oh, wow. Because it rang true, and I thought, oh, yeah, I'm not the devil's advocate, and I'm not the devil incarnate, and all the things a little kid would who had taken over my emotions would take you through. And then I realized that I could either be negative or I could be positive, and I decided to be as positive as I possibly could, no matter what the situation. So our natural tendency when we have a tragedy, our mind wants to go as a protective mechanism. Our brain says, well,
yep.
let's think of the worst possible thing so we'll be prepared. And
Right.
so
Right.
I'm working on putting gratitude, like last night my son was dropping by the house, and I've got my second shot with corona and all that, but he hasn't got his second shot, so it's like I have to, he's afraid that he's going to give it to me, but I know I have a. But as time went on, and he was later and later coming, I'm going, well, maybe it was an accident, and then I slapped. Oh, I'm so grateful that I have this beautiful son. But first, my first reaction is, oh, well, maybe the police did something. I'm
Right.
telling you,
Right.
it's like. And so then I slap gratitude. I'm so happy that this young man is so beautiful and wants to support me all the time, drop it over, you know. And
Yeah.
and when we do that, it really shifts that attitude to gratitude. I mean,
Mhm.
it's almost magic, right? Well,
Yes.
anyway, I feel like it's magic. Maybe because it took me
Yeah.
75 years to find it. I
But
don't know.
I am experiencing the same thing with my son. I
Mm,
have been preparing for him. He's graduating this year from high school, and I'm preparing myself around honestly the grief process for myself that he won't be here. And those same thoughts that you had, right, about your son, oh my God, something's gonna happen. Like, where is he? I've been working on that on the greatest and highest good is going to be for my son. Like, it's all is well, all is well. Like, I have to do that too, like to switch my brain, which
mm,
because I know I am going through a grieving process like right now with my baby. I still see him
mm,
as my little baby.
yeah.
I'm still nursing him. He might not think that, but I still, it's still present for me. So I totally agree. And so you did mention about kind of your own healing journey about the gratitude. Could you just share a little bit more about that healing journey around grief for you?
Yeah, boy, it was so in my community, many people knew about my son passing, and there have been other people whose child has passed, and yet it's like uh, my life got bigger, and so they asked me in the community to come and talk to the seniors around, because I'm a senior, around loss and grief. I think that was the title. And that was like around 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And so when I did that presentation, I was astounded as I was studying my own transformation. I was stunned at how simple and complicated, or simple and hard, it would be to actually capture your mind's activity as it's happening. And so I was trying to, with my whole life, transmit that in words, but it's hard to do that. And but I do a lot of presentations. I've done a lot of presentations in the community, and yet I was nervous. And one of my dear friends that was there said she could see that I was nervous, because this was before COVID, right?
Right.
So I'm live, right? And I don't I've talked to at least 1,100, 1,200 people at once in an audience. And I mean, you always have the jitters and the butterflies, but when I start talking, it just kind of flies away. But this time it didn't fly away. I kept looking at the people to see who was actually getting my message. Yes. It was only a couple people that were able to actually digest what I was saying. And I was like stunned at how our culture has wiped us of being able to mourn when someone passes, how our culture is like, this is what I think, and I don't know if it's true. I wish I have to find I think they're called etymologists, a person who studies words. But good morning might have been good morning as in the mourning the death of someone. And that we looked at it as a very positive thing to go on with our lives. And I just wonder if we haven't changed that so that we don't mourn, so we're not present. Because if you, it's like, what's her name? Brene Brown says, if you decide to take all the negative that you have in your life and not face it, you then push all of the joy that you have and not be able to embrace it, because they're like two sides of the same coin. And everyone I know, every person that comes into my workshop does not understand that until they leave, but you can see their whole faces brighten up, because that knowledge is so, so important.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm at the end of Resmaa Menakem's book, My Grandmother's Hands, and he talks about clean pain, about going through the pain and settling it in your body. So that one is very important, that you don't pass on that trauma to your future generations, because it is in your DNA. You are right. But what comes out of it is that within your body what helps to settle you, right? A settled body to get back in harmony, in alignment with who you are, right? And what those things are when you begin to investigate, so that when you are in very stressful or traumatic events, the home to go back to in your body that you need to kind of, settle and like, okay, I'm Natasha, I'm back. Right, I'm back to myself, right? So so that, I think, that's so important. But it's so interesting on that good morning piece, right? So there has been a lot of like little videos that I've watched of people that, yes, the word good morning is around death, right? The phase of life, and some people have equated that to kind of the low drag people feel in the morning, because they're saying good morning and they aren't, you're not alert. And so people are have been saying you should say great rising, right? But
I really great rising.
Great rising. But I love what you introduce is a different thought that I haven't heard, is that we haven't provided spaces and time for mourning.
Yeah.
And maybe saying good morning is helping people to think about to think about grief, to go through grief, to to contemplate, to reflect, right? That because there aren't it's not like a it's so interesting. Everybody needs that time, like every human being, right? I don't care what race or ethnicity you are, you need that. But it's not a common thing, right? In our society, we also very weird and uncomfortable about it. With that natural transition, like, what should I say? Like, you hear that, like, what should I say? What should I do? Right. So, but I love that idea that good morning is probably helping us to mourn, to remind us.
If we can, if we can flip it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. Oh, I really like
Mhm.
that. And
Mhm.
so you mentioned about the community, right? Like that kind of brings it up. Like, what have you, been really offering in the community that helps people to switch that light on for them and kind of awake to the grieving process?
Mm. So I've been in the libraries with Trust Your Struggle, and uh, that's where From Grief to Growth has birthed itself about 4 years ago.
Mhm.
And it's so funny because I really didn't have any clue that I would be doing this, but there's such a, and presently there's such a, I want to use the right word, uh, a cloud. There's such a dark cloud, and I put underline dark around suicide.
Mm,
And I thought, I believe energy is what we all are. And so even with my son's passing, his energy is still
mm, mm.
somewhere.
Right.
And so I can either raise my energy, which will, because he's part of my ancestry. Well, I'm going to back up. Okay. So I believe that 7 generations ahead of me and 7 generations behind me uh, are responding to my life as I live right now.
Mm,
And
mm,
if
mm.
that, if I'm in the doldrums and feeling depressed all the time, I mean, everybody has it. Listen, I heard it just this week, last week yeah, last week, a dear friend of mine who we thought was fine
Mhm.
was found dead in his house, you know?
Wow.
And so I, and I, I have worked through my grief for years now. And yet, and one of the deepest griefs is to have a child go before you. And so I'm sitting here thinking about my friend who was not like old or anything like that. Uh, he was like middle aged, and now he's gone, and I'm feeling really depressed. So I go and I'm a real energetic person. This is just
Mhm.
last week
Yes.
now.
Yes.
Just I lay down. I know I can't sleep in the middle of the day, but I'm feeling depressed. So I'm gonna lay down. And then I get a phone call from Wula who knew him as well. And she says, well, I think you've taken that off the shelf, that being depressed about Andrew, I'll mention his name. And then I want you to just take it and put it back on the shelf because you data this, data, then she starts praising me and whatnot. And just kind of like reflecting my life back to me, and it was like that. So I was depressed for like maybe 10 minutes instead of being days or hours.
Right.
And so I think that it's a question of whether, because I remember when I was a young woman, I would sleep for days. I'd lose a job sleeping. It
Mm.
didn't matter to me. If I'm depressed, I can't go. I'm sorry, I'm sick.
Right. Right.
But now, it's a few minutes that I have to deal with my negativity or whatever you want to call it. But I think it's life. Life is a mystery, and it's not a problem to be solved. It's a mystery to live.
Mm, mm, mm.
So that's what my life is about. And I'm sorry I forgot the question.
Yeah, no worries. But like, in the community, as you've been doing your sessions,
Mhm.
like what have you seen as kind of the change with people,
Oh,
right?
amazing. Yes, amazing. I've had people who said, I didn't know that I needed this, and so badly. And I just like, I've seen people come, they just brighten up after they go through the course. The little workshop that I thought would be, a nice thing to give in the community, but it's like it's like people are under glass, and once they go through my workshop, bam, I break the glass and they reveal themselves to themselves.
Mm.
It's a beautiful thing. I'm so proud of it.
Yes, awesome, awesome, and I'm grateful that we are working together to bring that 4-part series beginning in May. We thought it would make sense going into the Mother's Day and Father's Day tradition, to have people, and selfishly, I will be participating as a facilitator, because again, just helping my own toolbox around the transition of my mother. I bring her, with me all the time, kind of like what you said about energy. She's always with me.
Wow.
I'm always talking to her. And like, what would Reva do? What would my mommy do? Right. And so
Wow.
I'm really grateful that your expertise, your experience, your wisdom will be offered beginning May 1st. And so we currently have a wait list. If this is something that you're interested in participating in, I'm going to put the link here in the comments, so that folks can check out the overview for Trust Your Grief, which is a 4-part series that will begin on May 1st. So I'm putting the link here. I just put the link in the comments, and please feel free, go there, get on the wait list. We'll be coming back again on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to give you all the details about the 4-part series, about what you're going to get. And again, the series is a 4-part series, and the intentions are to honor your ancestors, develop healing practice, get communal support, and celebrate. And so I'm just very grateful for you, Miss Romaine Harris, and that's all I got. Any closing ideas or thoughts that you want to share before we close out?
You know, um, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that people have decided to take a look see at how they can honor their ancestors and people who've gone before them.
Yep,
I feel like it's a very wonderful privilege.
yep. Ashe. All right. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
anyone that's still listening, we hope you have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
Bye bye.